work with great stars and doing a great TV show. They 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 all want to go to Paris. They're waiting for a quick and dirty answer. Okay, I can quickly. In order to go to Paris, first you have to go to India. Oh, so the only path to career is through India. It's pretty funny that the road the path to the west leads through the east. Actually, southeast. I understand that you can hear us even though the signal is being interrupted. With me, it looked like this. I made a film which is called The Disciple, which you can that is this Disciple. It's an indie film in Marathi language. And you can find it on Netflix. And it's a movie. If I've been in India for 10 months 2 years ago, and the producer of that film was Alfonso Cuarón, whom you probably know from such films as Gravity or Roma, and the director of that movie, an Indian guy. He was an assistant, Cuarón's assistant with Roma, and he was the only guy who knew the script to Roma. He won a Rolex Protégé program competition, and based on that, Alfonso Cuarón became his master, and he was in pre-production on the set and then in post-production. And it occurred so that he was looking for a DOP for his movie, and I was in Bombay when I was shooting commercials. And it's happened so that uh, I was with my film Arsamandi um, in the competition, and Cuarón saw that film and he liked that movie. And when Chaitanya, the director of the movie, the Indian movie, was looking for the DOP, he said that forget about American DOPs. You need a guy who's independent, like an artistic art house DOP, and that's how it just happened that my name was mentioned, and Chaitanya called me that he would want to meet me, and I was in Bombay at that time, and I had a day off, and I wanted to go to Elephant Islands, and then it occurred he thought that I'm joking, that I'm in Bombay, but it occurred that uh, on this boat which went to Elephant Island, I had to go back, and I went to to a cafe with him. I got the script, I liked it, and 10 months later, the film was made. The film was premiered in Venice. It got an award in Venice. It won the Toronto Festival. In Cairo, it was received very, very well. It reached a certain international success, which led me to the point that this year I was shortlisted of 10 DOPs for Oscar nomination. This category was in the category the best movie, the best script, and me next to Łukasz Jeremiński and Greg Fraser, who shot Duna. I was in that 10, of course, which was a great honor for me. Of course, I didn't get to the nominations themselves, but not that important. But New York Times and LA Times wrote an article, and after that, the film started ringing. Sorry, the telephone started ringing. And after one of the phones, which seemed a bit unreal, initially was the project which I'm completing right now, because there are only 2 shooting days left. So I'm already at it's the last run, so to speak. It's the project that I'm doing right now. It's a project for Apple, for a streaming platform. The first big European project, but of course it's an American project which is shot in Europe, and it's a project which is called The New Look. It's a story of collaboration or lack of collaboration between Coco Chanel and Christian Dior and the Nazis in 1943, which is quite funny. The film Philip, for which I got an award um, for filming, ends like that. the Polish Jew who's pretending to be a Frenchman gets papers to get to Paris in 1943. I got in on the same train to get to Paris, and it's a continuation of the same sort of era. It's a 10 episode series coming back to the new look. We have Helen Shaver, the creator of the Soprano Family, the producer of Transformers. Although there's no action in this movie, this is a war drama, so to speak, rather than fashion film, because the the sister of Dior was sent to a concentration camp in Ravensbrück, and tried he was he was making dresses for Nazi wives in order to get her back, and for her he devoted to her his first son, Miss Dior. And Coco Chanel had a Nazi lover. She was living in Ritz, which was teeming with Nazis, and Goebbels in Goebbels in a golden bathtub was using heroin, and she had to live Paris after the war and live in Switzerland so that she was not persecuted for collaboration. It was never shown. It was never shown before. It's a very interesting project. Therefore, Juliette Binoche is Coco Chanel. Dior is played by Ben Mendelsohn, an Australian actor, and additionally, John Malkovich is in the cast. Maisie Williams from the Game of Thrones, Emily Mortimer, and recently the cast was joined by Glenn Close, an 8-time award nominee, and for the last 2 weeks I've been shooting all the scenes with Glenn Close. So it's a fantastic project, fantastic set design. We're shooting in all well-known Paris objects, starting from the Louvre through Rodin Museum, through Sorbonne, and we're closing out the streets. It's a big and very demanding project with stars, which has its upsides and downsides. But it's getting to a close. We have 2 filming days left. Okay, thank you and congratulate. I would like to leave the microphone to the participants of the meeting with you, but I wanted to ask you a question that to some extent pertained to me and my father. How in the projects, your father, for example, how do you deal with such projects which really have a big of physical and mental load, emotional load? What did it look like? Because sorry, Sławek, something wrong here. I can hear you again. How do I deal with the stress? Yes, because this is a part of our job. This is also something that unfortunately we encounter. Sometimes money kills our sensitivity. Meeting with those people who are different, they're better, worse people that are out, and it has a very negative impact on the atmosphere and the set. What does it look like in your case? It's a good question, and it's a very wise question. And I know why you asked it. It looks like the factory of dreams that they say, but it's a dream factory, and it's a dream or every DOP to find their way here. However, it is even more stressful than working at home, where how do I deal with stress? I deal with stress that I always take with me my family. For me, the most important thing, this is what my father taught me. We were going with him everywhere, wherever he made films. We always went with them, and my kids are also accompanying me. But my wife, Natalia, I can boast here, 2 days before the set here, she gave birth to a daughter, Helen, who was born here in Paris. So I have a 3rd child, and this is my method to fight to combat stress. Well, we congratulate you on the child. Changing diapers and bathing your child is the best method to fight with the stress on the set. Okay, I'm passing the microphone to other people. I give you my best regards. I'm passing the microphone to the audience, and I hope there will be some interesting questions. If there are no interesting questions, I will allow to finish with. I would like you So to say to what extent such courses as Film Spring Open do you feel they are valuable, or do you have some experience? And I will be really willing to hear that. Before you move on to that, I will pass on the microphone to others. Do you have questions to Michał? I can tell you more about the stress. It's a bit, if I were to compare that to architecture. I have the feeling that in Poland I've managed to reach a certain nice level where I can have this luxury of selecting projects for myself. So it is a bit like building a beautiful house without time limitations for several people. And it is certain fulfillment of dreams, but coming here is more like building a bridge or building a skyscraper, Burj Khalifa, or something like that, where having all those skills, you know, erecting this building, you know, our crew without post-production counts over 1,000 people, so it's like a gigantic machinery. Just the office of the field of filmmaking is like four stories in a huge building, where you have tailors. The set design has the whole level, building of decorations. We have 3 halls rented. Producers are from United States, UK, France, Monaco. All this has to go through an incredible number of people. So the politics here is such that the most important thing is to do things on time and not to do overtime, and to make a break when it's time for a break, because these are also French laws in here, where the crew is the king. The crew is great, but there is no possibility to sort of to fail on something. The director in Poland goes to a certain vision. Here, vision is secondary. Because in this stress, in all that, you just cannot stumble. This is the most stressful element, because you do not have much time, and the scenes are more demanding. So automatically you have to work with 2 cameras. You have to get as much footage as possible in the shortest time possible. So you're creating a great and artistic project. However, this freedom is much more restricted than it is in normally in Poland, where the director always has the final word. Here you have the showrunner, then over the showrunner with the executive producer, then you have line producer, and at the end there you have the Apple company, which creates tablets and TVs, and right now it also develops movies. So the number of bosses over your bosses over your bosses, nobody really knows how high this chain of command goes. Who has questions? I have a question concerning the pre-production process. From your point of view, is it so that when you enter such a project, you immediately get on the plane and you sit there for like a number of months before the shooting and then during the shooting, or is it so that some of the production is taking place remotely and you're just going for technical documentation just before the shooting? Can you talk about that in a nutshell? Sorry, I had a broken connection again. So the question again. Could you tell us how, from your point of view, the pre-production looked like? Yes. Is it so that you've been there through the whole pre-production process, or did you do it remotely? How was it divided? How long did it take? Okay, that's a very good question. Congratulations, because the film is made in pre-production. Shooting is just the execution. Everything is done in pre-production. Pre-production is the most important thing. We make the look of the film. We have to make decisions whether the object is good for us or not. The shooting is like nobody can afford it, and nobody wants to have over hours. You just enter, you set up the light, you shoot, and you do the next day. There's no time for thinking. Then I like the pre-production process, because then I'm sketching this film out in my head. This is what it looked like. In February, I got the proposal for this movie. It was a long and stressful process because we had casting. Everybody had to accept me. By some miracle, I was accepted by everybody. February, March, we started to make Zoom meetings where I had castings for the crew. I was talking to gaffers, I was talking to dolly drivers, to focus pullers, all the team, all the crew that I work with, some great specialists. And in April, I came to Paris. In April, I came to Paris first for a week, just to find an apartment, a very prosaic, mundane thing. Of course, the production got the apartment for me here, and also to see the studio, to see the hall, to have in my head all those plans, because we have 3 halls. We are shooting 75% in Paris, 25% in the production hall. So we have 3 3 decorations, like the Dior's apartment, which is permanent, his fashion house, the hotel Ritz. A Hotel Ritz apartment where Coco Chanel lived, because Hotel Ritz does not want to admit that that she was living there with a Nazi officer. And these decorations are being changed every several days, but they're always lighted. So if somebody gets COVID, they refresh. I mean, we always have a plan B, because if somebody gets a COVID, or something changes, we always have a plan B. We have more cameras, there are more people, we're prepared, even if it costs more money. Decorations are always ready, they're always lit, and that's all. Here we have the system of the block system when it comes to shooting. I'm one of the 2 DOPs, and the operator and the director change every block. So I'm shooting half of the I'm shooting half of the episodes. So I've been prep. It takes for 2 episodes is 1.5 months, so about 30 days. Not to calculate the days off. You're shooting 2 episodes, and then the second director, at the same time, the second director and the second DOP are prepping other episodes. So it's like we're overlaying. There's 1 crew, 1 gaffer who do all the episodes, and so it's like the preparation is 30 days, and actually 2 months, because it's a pre-prep. 1.5 months of preparation, 1.5 months of shooting. So altogether, it gives us 6.5 months of stay, out of which effectively 3 months of shooting. What is very important, hygienic and healthy, is that instead of prepare something in the early spring, which I will be doing in October, you're preparing something like for a feature film, because 2 episodes is like a feature film, and then you finish shooting and you start to prepare another 2 episodes. So you have new objects, you have fresher mind, you're working only on 2 scripts. It's like making a feature film. I don't know if I answered your question, or can I add something? Hi. I have a question about the visual key and formatting of this visual language, especially when you have 2 DPs and plenty of bosses over bosses over bosses over bosses. And I assume that this is not depending only on you in that such a situation. How in general, what does in general the formatting of such TV show looks like with such a big production? Again, a great question. Yes, plenty of people here are taking part in that. But on the other hand, I got a lot of freedom. And right now, the most important thing in the film set, it is so that when we stop doing films on the tape and we started doing them digitally, everybody can approach the screen and see, and I don't know, Some liked it, some don't like it. Everybody wants to have their say. Therefore, what happened? You create a certain look, or the film's look, which you upload to the camera in order to do as little as possible in post-production. So you're sort of, it's a step back, especially in the West, that with a DIT technician, he's my right hand assistant, the camera assistant, who uploads those LUTs and does some grading on the set. While in Poland recently, I did made color correction for half a month, 1.5 months. Here you have about 1 week per episode. So when I come up with some how my contrasts are to look, and what is my color palette, etc. Then after all the rehearsals, I have a LUT prepared, which is it's as easy as filter in an Instagram, so that they change it as little as possible later in post-production, so that everybody gets used to. And it's very important because this chain and this workflow is so that all the dailies, all material are buffered daily in the cloud, which is sent to the UK and to the States, where people watch that, the editors edit that. It's a huge machinery where the director gets in immediately after the set, gets the first layout, the first version, and he's editing only finally only already on the ready version. It's not like there's not the possibility to sit for as long as you want in the editing room in here. So for me, it is also the most important thing is to get everybody ready to what it will look like, especially in a show where you have, I don't know, your dresses, etc., which will not really look as the real dresses, fashion dresses that are made with a photo camera, with a flash, in a flat light. So when I will create such look, I go to the costume designer and I show her that if we want to recreate a certain dress, it cannot look like the real dress. It has to look like this in those colors that which go through the camera lens and through the light. So the most important part is for the editor to get on the editing table something that will look that will get everybody used to that look, because nobody will want to risk the change later, that it will not be black and white at the end, that it will be. But I think that it's a series which is made in such quite a bold way, because I've mentioned already it tells a story about the Second World War, about how the sister of Dior was sent to a concentration camp, then she goes back, the liberation of Paris. There's a certain sort of a change, and we're moving from a more of a washed out war movie to a more colored movie. Of course, it's not very radical, but this movie is shot from a low perspectives, with wide lenses, wide angle lenses, with a low contrast. For the first time, I risked and used a polarizing filter in the camera at all times, and ND filters, like grading filters. Slavek will be happy because he was always the master of he was always the master. He popularized those filters. I never used them, but I started to use them here. Here I started to use filters in order to superimpose as much as possible, to force as much as possible visually from my side, in order to later to have some freedom and to get everybody ready. Can you hear me?
Tak, tak.
Yes, we do. Oh, I can't hear anything.
Cię słyszymy cały czas. Cię słyszymy.
That's it. He left.
Hej, słyszysz nas? Halo, halo, halo.
I'm sorry, I have some like I have some flood of phone calls and I don't know how to turn that off. I don't know, no problem. I have this is you know 1 hour I have a lot of phone calls. Oh, hi, I wanted to quickly ask um, about the visual language. I understand that you had this freedom, but is it so that the second DOP that does the second blog, does he adapt to your assumptions, or do you agree on certain assumptions together? Well, we do it together. We both came up with those assumptions. We decided on the load together, and then a lot depends on the director really, because the directors changed, and it's a very interesting process because from Helen Shaver and Jeremy Pod- Podesła, he's a very well known. If you go to IMDb, he's a guy who did all the best TV shows that you like, starting from the Game of Thrones, Dexter, Breaking Bad, etc. He did some incredible stuff. To Juliette Ocornu, who is the director of one of the blogs, who got a Golden Palm in Cannes for The Titan, who's an independent French director. So it's a very bold approach because each of those directors has a totally different the language of storytelling, and we are the glue that binds together these directors. It's also interesting that the producer gets the DOP, not the director, in order to continue that look, regardless of the director. Of course, the director brings the ideas, he talks to the actors, he manages all that. But we the DOPs, we come up with a look, and we make sure that it's kept with all the directors. So using the fact that there's a short break, how do you prepare that look? So you're doing test shots in locations with the lighting. Do you do several versions of the salute, or do you base on something? Yes, we have a colorist in New York, because color correction will be in New York, and the costumes were prepared. The set design was done, and and we get there a month or one half a month before the shooting, and you can allow yourselves for everything, which is great. We did 24 versions of the loot, but we're using one right now. I got inspired. Do you know that series? Second World War in Color. I recommend it to you in Netflix. One of my episodes was the entrance of de Gaulle in 1944 after the liberation of Paris. I was really inspired by that because these are colored black and white materials, and some colored materials in the negative. I wanted this look to be modern by be retro, and I was inspired a lot by the colored black and white pictures. So I'm trying. That's why I try to make the matte those films to be very matte. My last film was very glossy. Right here, I decided that it will to to make it different. So it will lower contrast, a bit faded colors, a bit more of a pastel and matte color, which resemble old negative which was colored. So it's not it is not desaturation that these colors are quite strong, and that was the main inspiration watching the historical material, uh, the watching of Ariton photos of Dior sessions from the 1940s. So it's a very interesting and fun process. And of course, the costumes, great set design, a bit more. I can get this. We decided a bit more sepia, a bit more magenta, etc. So finally, at, at the end of the day, you have those loots in the pictures. Then I just go through them and I to see what they work like in outdoors, indoors, in the daylight, in the lamplight. After several first few days, after first week, these preferences, just like cooperation with the director, something clicks. You say, okay, let's do it like this. One wants to have 100 versions, the other one prefers to have 2 versions only. How they make decisions about lights, the width, all this. It's like a game between lovers, where you can touch, where you cannot touch, so to say. The, well, the young people don't want to ask you questions. I don't know. They feel humbled, I suppose. This is Sławek again. I will say what you asked me before. I believe that Film Spring Open is an incredibly good initiative, because once we only had a choice when I was, my generation. You had the only one model. Then you had privatization and other schools started to pop out. It's not like, but it's, I believe, 5 years in film school. It's too long. I'm really thankful. I graduated from film school, but I started to work when I was in second year, third year. I made my DOP debut. Before that, I was working as a camera operator. It's very difficult to sit until the end, especially that I had lectures with my the best lectures are at the end of the course, and there's nobody in the school anymore. What Sławek does is like a crash course. It's much better to get the overdose of adrenaline and information, and all that is transferred through internet, through social media. Everything changes very fast, and I believe that such a system is much more fruitful than a bit of an old timer system of 5 years in a film school. The world has accelerated a lot and it's changing a lot. So I feel that if I were to start from the scratch, then Film Spring Open is something in which it's worth taking time, because you get to know everything from the preparation to into editing room in 1 week. Gives you a certain purpose of what you would want to do. When I went to the film school, even though I'm from some sort of pro, prom, prominent DOP acting family, I didn't have a bloody idea what a film DOP is actually doing, because nobody talked about that at home. We were playing music and spending time in a nice way. And it was a horrible stress to go to film school and knowing that you want to be a DOP. That's quite often DOP becomes the director. It's much more fun to find yourself in this production, because if you go to the set, you know that the why this guy is holding the microphone. I, as the DOP, I know how to work with the actors. Film film is a bit like playing jazz or improvisation. You have to you improvise, but you have to there are certain rules, but you also have to save from certain crises, etc. You can see that on the films that when you see it here, you realize what you can want to do in your life. Thank you, thank you. These compliments were not orders. Yes, of course. You're invited in advance for the next year. Don't throw out those loots. You will bring them here next year, and you will show everything. especially
Bardzo jesteś kochany, że ten czas
you're really lovely that too lovely that you spend your free time to talk to us. Thank you very much. You really have to take a good rest. I wish you a lot of peace and relaxation after this hard work. And see you next year. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm really happy. It was difficult to find a moment, but I will always do that for you. I don't remember. We 2 or 3 years ago, my stay in Krakow was fantastic. Bye bye. We keep your fingers crossed for the last 2 shooting days, and say hello to Juliette Binoche to us. I hope that nothing. The last 100 meters. I hope we will not stumble. No, just focus for the last 2 days. Take care. Bye.